The Vex Queen's death scream faded into silence, but her massive corpse continued to collapse in space. Chunks of dead biomatter drifted away from her crumbling form, some pieces as large as city blocks. Combat medic Ye Yun worked frantically in the medical bay of the Indomitable. Wounded humans covered every available surface, and more kept arriving. Burns from acid, cuts from metal claws, broken bones from combat impacts. The cost of victory was written in blood and pain. "Doctor, this one's not going to make it," called her assistant, pointing to a Marine with severe chest wounds. "Yes, he is," Ye Yun said firmly. She had learned long ago that humans didn't die easy, and she wasn't about to let them start now. The wounded Marine tried to speak. His name was Dalsu, and he had been with Commander Kitai inside the Queen. Did we get her?" "You got her," Yeon said as she worked to stop his bleeding. "The whole swarm is falling apart. You saved everyone." Dalsu smiled and closed his eyes. He would live to fight another day. Outside the medical bay, Admiral Tae Sung walked through the ship's corridors. The walls were scorched from battle damage, and the air still smelled of smoke and death. 40% of his fleet was gone, along with hundreds of good people. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Hana, "we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Vex ships." "Surrender?" Taesung stopped walking. "The Vex don't surrender. Sir, they're not surrendering to us. They're attacking each other. Without the Queen's control, they've lost all coordination. It's like watching a body fight itself after the brain dies." Taesung nodded. It made sense. The Vex were designed to be controlled by their Queen. Without her, they were just animals with no purpose except to kill. "Any word from the cleanup teams?" "Colonel Myung-ho reports that his squadrons are hunting down the last scattered groups. No prisoners as ordered. The order for no prisoners had been difficult but necessary. The Vex could not be allowed to survive and rebuild. This was not just a battle, it was an extermination. Humans had learned the hard way that some enemies could never be allowed to exist. Admiral Thelnara's crystal ship approached the human fleet. Her people were still trying to understand what they had witnessed. The Althari had expected peaceful explorers, but instead received the galaxy's most efficient killers. "Admiral Tae Sung," she said over the communication link, "my people wish to thank you for your sacrifice. But we also want to understand. How can you celebrate victory when so many of your own people died?" "Because they didn't die for nothing," Tae Sung replied. "Every human who gave their life today saved thousands of others. That's how we measure victory. But the cost? The cost is always high. Freedom isn't free, Admiral. Someone always has to pay the price." Chaplain Seok Jin was preparing for the memorial service. In human tradition, they honored their dead before celebrating their victory. The ship's main assembly hall was filled with pictures of the fallen, young faces that would never grow old, brave souls who had chosen duty over survival. "How many?" asked Engineer Woo Jin as he helped arrange the memorial displays. 347 confirmed dead, Seok Jin replied. "Another 120 missing, presumed dead inside the Queen when she exploded." Woo Jin was quiet for a moment. He had known many of the dead personally. Engineer Bitna had died keeping the reactor cores stable during the final battle. Pilot Taeho had flown his damaged fighter into a group of Vex ships to protect a medical transport. "They died heroes," Seok Jin said gently. "They died doing their job," Woo Jin corrected. "That's what makes them heroes." The memorial service was broadcast to every ship in the fleet. Humans gathered in small groups to remember their fallen comrades. There were no grand speeches, no political messages, just simple recognition that good people had died for a worthy cause. Commander Kitai died leading his Marines into the heart of the enemy, Chaplain Seok Jin said. Specialist Jae Hyun died planting the bombs that killed the Queen. Pilot Chang Min died delivering supplies to Marines who needed them. They all knew they would not come home. They went anyway. Admiral Thelnara watched the ceremony from her ship. Her people did not understand how humans could mourn and celebrate at the same time. In Althari culture, death was always a tragedy, something to be avoided at any cost. "Your species confuses us," she admitted to Captain Hae-jin. "You seem to welcome death." "We don't welcome it," Hae-jin replied. "We just don't fear it when there's something more important at stake." What could be more important than life? The lives of others. The future of innocence. The idea that bullies shouldn't be allowed to win. Dr. Jiwon was analyzing the aftermath of her virus weapon. The genetic attack had spread through the entire Vex network before the Queen died. ensuring that no hidden colonies could survive to rebuild. "It's done," she reported to Admiral Tae-sung. "The Vex species is extinct. Every trace of their genetic material has been destroyed." "Any regrets?" Tae-sung asked. "About creating a weapon that could wipe out an entire species? Yes, about using it to save 2 billion innocent lives? No. The cleanup operations continued for 3 days. Human ships systematically destroyed every piece of Vex technology they could find. Nothing could be allowed to survive that might someday threaten other species." Medical Officer Insu worked around the clock treating survivors, both human and Althari. Many of the crystal beings had been injured when their ships were attacked, and human medical techniques were helping them heal. "Your medicine is very different from ours," observed an Althari doctor named Veltar. "We learned it the hard way," Insu replied. "On our world, if you couldn't fix something fast, it died. That teaches you to be creative." The Althari were slowly beginning to understand that humans were not like other species they had met. These were beings shaped by constant struggle, who had learned to turn their suffering into strength. "Why did you help us?" asked Admiral Thelnara during a final meeting with the human command staff. "You could have ignored our signal. You could have left us to die." "Because that's not who we are," Admiral Tae-sung replied. "We're killers, yes. We're dangerous, yes. But we're also protectors. When someone asks for help, we answer. Even though we're not human, especially because you're not human. Humans can take care of themselves. You needed someone to take care of you." The human fleet prepared to leave Althari space. They had accomplished their mission, but the cost had been terrible. Every ship carried empty bunks where good people used to sleep. Captain Heijin stood on his bridge and watched the stars. In a few hours they would jump to hyperspace and head home, but home would not be the same without the friends they had lost. "Sir," said Bora, "we're receiving a transmission from the Althari government." "Put it through." Admiral Thelnara's voice filled the bridge. "Admiral Tae-sung, before you leave, my people want you to know something. We understand now why other species call you Deathworlders, but we also understand why they ask for your help when they're in trouble." "And why is that?" "Because sometimes the galaxy needs monsters. And when it does, it's good to know that the monsters are on the side of the innocent." Admiral Tae-sung smiled his dark smile one last time. "We'll see you around, Admiral. Try to stay out of trouble. And if we can't, then call us. We'll come running." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Althari system safe and free. Behind them, the remains of the Vex Queen continued to drift in space, a monument to the price of threatening innocent lives. The Deathworlders had answered another call for help. And somewhere in the galaxy, other species would sleep safer knowing that humanity was watching over them. The Vex Queen hung in space like a diseased moon. Her surface crawled with millions of weapon pods and bioships. She was so large that she had her own gravity field, and debris from destroyed ships orbited around her like a ring of death. "Mother of God," whispered Captain Heijin as the human fleet approached. "How are we supposed to kill something that big?" "The same way we kill everything else," Admiral Tae-sung replied. "We get inside and break it from within." Marine Commander Kite stood in the drop bay of the assault ship Hammer of Soul. Around him, 300 Marines checked their weapons and armor. They were about to attempt something no other species had ever tried: a ground assault on a living spaceship the size of a city. "Listen up, Marines," Kite shouted over the noise of preparing engines. "That thing out there is full of bugs that want to eat us. Our job is to get inside and plant nuclear charges in her brain." "Questions?" A young Marine raised her hand. "Sir, what are our chances of survival?" "0, Kite replied. "Any other questions?" No one else spoke. They all knew this was a suicide mission, but they also knew that 2 billion Althari lives depended on them. Flamethrower specialist Namjin adjusted his heavy weapon. The bioships were vulnerable to fire, and his job was to burn a path through their defenses. "Sir, request permission to lead the first wave." "Granted." Heavy weapons operator Sun-hee, you're with him. Sun-hee was a small woman who carried weapons twice her size. Her plasma cannon could punch holes through ship armor, and she had never missed a target that mattered. The assault ships launched from the human fleet and screamed toward the Vex Queen. Immediately, millions of biofighters swarmed out to meet them, space filled with green acid and nuclear fire. Captain Heijin coordinated the orbital bombardment from the Indomitable. "All ships target the surface weapon clusters. Clear a path for the Marines." Linguist Bora worked frantically at her station trying to jam Vex communications. I'm disrupting their coordination signals, but there are so many of them. The Vex Queen began to move. Her massive form shifted in space as she turned toward the human fleet. Weapon pods the size of buildings opened along her surface, revealing organic cannons that could destroy entire ships with one shot. She's waking up, reported Dr. Jiwan from her laboratory. The Queen has been sleeping for centuries, but our attack is forcing her to become active. How long until she's fully awake? Asked Admiral Taesung. 20 minutes, maybe less. Then we have 20 minutes to kill her. The marine assault ships broke through the swarm of defenders and crashed into the Queen's surface. Kite kicked open the door of his landing craft and stepped onto the living ground of the alien creature. The surface felt like walking on warm, wet flesh. Pools of acid bubbled around them, and tentacles emerged from the ground to grab at the Marines. Namjin burned them away with his flamethrower while Sunhee blasted open an entrance tunnel. Move, 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 Kite shouted as his Marines poured into the Queen's interior. Inside, the creature was worse than any nightmare. The walls pulsed with alien heartbeats. Veins carried glowing fluids to unknown organs. And everywhere, Vex warrior creatures emerged to defend their mother. The Marines fought through corridors made of living tissue. Their weapons lit up the darkness as they battled creatures that defied description. Some Vex looked like giant spiders with metal claws. Others were shapeless blobs that could fit through any opening. Engineer Wu Jin worked desperately to keep the fleet's weapons functioning. Captain, the bioacid is eating through our armor plating. How long can we hold together? Asked Heijin. 10 minutes, maybe 15 if we're lucky. Make us lucky. Wu Jin. Pilot Chang Min flew his fighter through the Queen's arterial tunnels, delivering supplies to the Marines deep inside. His ship barely fit through the pulsing passages and acid dripped from the walls onto his canopy. Supply run complete, he reported, but I don't think I can make it back out. Understood, said Kite. Thanks for the delivery, pilot. Chang Min's fighter exploded when a Vex warrior grabbed it with metal claws. But the Marines had the supplies they needed to continue their mission. Dr. Jiwan released her virus weapon into the Queen's bloodstream. The genetic weapon spread through the creature's circulatory system, attacking Vex DNA at the cellular level. Virus deployed, she reported. It should reach the brain in 5 minutes. But the Queen's immune system was fighting back. Massive antibody creatures hunted the Marines through the tunnels. Each one was the size of a tank and covered in natural armor. We're taking heavy casualties, Kite reported, but we're still moving toward the target. The target was the Queen's central brain, a massive organ protected by layers of bone and muscle. The Marines had to fight their way through the creature's entire nervous system to reach it. Specialist Jae Hyun carried the nuclear warheads. Each bomb was small enough for one person to carry, but powerful enough to destroy a city. His job was to place them directly against the Queen's brain tissue. Sir, I can see the brain chamber, he reported, but there's something between us and it. The final guardian was a Vex creature unlike anything they had seen before. It was part of the Queen's body, a living defense system designed to protect her most vital organ. The thing was as large as a building and covered in weapons that grew from its flesh. Take it down, Kite ordered. The Marines attacked with everything they had. Namjin's flamethrower burned away layers of armor, while Sunhee's plasma cannon punched holes in its defenses. But the creature regenerated as fast as they could damage it. I can't get close enough to plant the bombs, Jae-hyun said. Then we make away, Kite replied. He pulled out his own grenades and charged the Guardian. For Earth. For humanity. For innocent lives. The explosion cleared a path to the brain chamber. Jae-hyun ran through the smoke and flames, carrying his nuclear warheads. Behind him, the remaining Marines held off waves of Vex defenders. Bombs planted, Jae-hyun reported. 60 seconds to detonation. All Marines fall back, Kite ordered. But they all knew the truth. There was no escape from inside the Queen. They had come here to die. Outside, Admiral Tae-sung watched the timer count down. All ships maximum range? When that thing explodes, I don't want to be anywhere near it. Sir, said Communications Officer Hana, I'm receiving a transmission from the Marines inside the Queen. Put it through. Kite's voice came over the radio, calm and strong. Admiral, this is Commander Kite. Mission accomplished. The Queen is dead, we just haven't told her yet. Understood, Commander. It's been an honor serving with you. The honor was ours, sir. Kaite out. The explosion lit up half the star system. The Vex Queen's death scream echoed through subspace, reaching every Vex creature in the galaxy. As she died, her biological network collapsed, leaving millions of bioships without purpose or direction. The surviving Vex began attacking each other, their coordination completely broken. The threat that had consumed entire star systems was destroying itself. Admiral Thelnara watched in amazement as the human fleet regrouped. They had lost 20 ships and hundreds of Marines, but they had saved the galaxy. How do you do it? She asked Admiral Tae-sung.
How do you sacrifice so much and still keep fighting?
Because someone has to, Tae-sung replied. And we're the ones who can. Intelligence Officer Young-sik floated in the dark space between two Vex bioships. His stealth suit made him invisible to their sensors, but he could smell the alien stench even through his helmet filters. Control, this is Ghost 1, he whispered into his radio. I'm approaching the target vessel. Copy that. Ghost 1, came Captain Yunjae's voice from the stealth frigate Ghost of Busan. Remember, we need live samples and data on their reproduction system. Young-sik attached himself to the hull of the massive bioship. The surface felt warm and wet like skin. Veins pulsed underneath, carrying alien blood to unknown organs. He cut a small hole with his plasma torch and crawled inside. The interior was a nightmare. Walls breathed like lungs. Pools of green liquid bubbled with growing Vex larvae. The whole ship was alive, and it was making more Vex soldiers every minute. This is sick, Young-sik muttered as he took pictures and collected samples. The whole ship is one big nursery. He found what he was looking for in the ship's center, a massive brain floating in biofluid. Neural cables connected it to every part of the vessel. This was how the Vex communicated, through biological networks that linked every ship to every other ship. Young-sik planted his recording devices and data collectors. If humans could understand how the Vex shared information, they could disrupt it. Ghost 1 to control. Package delivered. Getting out of here before they notice me. But the bioship's immune system had already detected the human intruder. Antibody creatures like giant white blood cells came crawling through the corridors, searching for the infection. Young-sik ran through the breathing tunnels as alarms screamed around him. The walls tried to close and trap him, but he cut his way through with his plasma torch. Behind him, the antibody creatures were getting closer. He reached his entry point just as the creatures found him. Their acid spit burned through his suit's arm, but he was already jumping into space. Captain Yunjae's ship caught him with a tractor beam and pulled him to safety. Good work, Ghost 1, Yunjae said as Medical Officer So Young treated his acid burns. What did you find? They're all connected, Young-sik reported. Every ship, every creature, they all share one big brain network. That's how they coordinate attacks and adapt to our weapons. Captain Yunjae smiled. She was a thin woman with quick eyes and quicker hands. Her ship specialized in hitting targets that other ships couldn't reach. Then we know how to hurt them, she said. Hyunwoo prepped the neural disruptors. Demolitions expert Hyunwoo was a big man who loved making things explode. He had been working on special weapons designed to disrupt biological systems instead of just destroying them. Neural disruptors ready, Captain. These babies will scramble their brain networks like eggs in a pan. The Ghost of Busan moved silently through the Vex fleet. Their stealth technology made them invisible, and their mission was to plant neural disruptors on as many bioships as possible. Sniper So Young provided cover for the insertion teams. She could hit targets from impossible distances, her shots so precise they could disable specific organs on the bioships without alerting their immune systems. Target acquired, she whispered as she aimed at a Vex ship's communication cluster, sending them a message they won't forget. Her shot burned through the bioship's neural center. The creature screamed and began spinning in circles, unable to communicate with the rest of the fleet. Meanwhile, Admiral Tae-sung was preparing something much bigger. In the main fleet, officers worked around the clock to implement what the humans called Doctrine Ragnarok. Are you certain about this? Asked Admiral Thelnara over the communication link. You're talking about sacrificing entire ships just to create tactical advantages. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Tae-sung replied. Your people fight to preserve life. We fight to preserve what matters. Sometimes those are different things. Lieutenant Daeho had survived the first battle, but his fighter was badly damaged. Most pilots would have returned to the carrier for repairs. Instead, he requested permission to join the Ragnarok mission. Sir, my ship won't last another battle anyway, he told Admiral Tae-sung. Let me make it count for something. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Make us proud. Deho's fighter was loaded with experimental weapons and sent toward the largest Vex bioship in the area. His mission was to fly directly into the creature's mouth and detonate everything he carried. "This is Lightning 7, he radioed as he approached the target. "Tell my parents that their son died making the galaxy safer for children who will never know his name." The explosion tore the Vex ship in half. But more importantly, it released a cloud of neural disruptor gas that spread to nearby bioships, scrambling their communication networks. Admiral Thelnara struggled to understand human tactics. "Why do your people volunteer for missions they know will kill them?" "Because someone has to," explained Dr. Jiwan. "Your species evolved on peaceful worlds where cooperation meant survival. We evolved on a death world where sacrifice meant survival." In her laboratory, Jiwan was working on humanity's most terrible weapon. Using data from Young Six's mission, she was creating a virus that would attack Vex DNA directly. "This is biological warfare," her assistant said. "Most civilized species consider this a war crime." "Most civilized species haven't seen their children eaten by space bugs," Jiwan replied coldly. "We do what we must to protect innocent lives. The virus was designed to be incredibly specific. It would only attack Vex genetic material, leaving other life forms untouched. But once released, it would spread through the entire Vex network, killing every creature connected to their biological internet." Xenobiologist He Young had been studying captured Vex specimens. She made a discovery that changed everything. "Admiral, I found something," she reported to Tae-sung. "The Vex have a central queen bigger than all the others. She's the source of their entire species. Where is she? 3 star systems away. She's the size of a small moon, protected by millions of bioships. But if we can kill her, the entire Vex species will collapse." Admiral Tae-sung looked at the star charts. The Vex Queen was in the heart of enemy territory, surrounded by more firepower than any sane commander would attack. "How many ships would we need?" he asked. "All of them," He Young replied. "And we'd probably all die in the attempt." Tae-sung smiled his dark smile. "Then we'd better make sure we kill her first." Captain Hai-jin received the attack orders and passed them to his crew. Engineer Woo-jin began preparing the ship's weapons for extended combat. Medical Officer In-soo stocked up on emergency supplies. Everyone knew this would be their last battle. "Are you afraid?" asked Thelnara. "Terrified," Hai-jin admitted. "But fear is just another weapon when you know how to use it." The human fleet began moving toward the Vex Queen's position. 50 ships against millions of enemies. Any other species would have called it suicide. Humans called it Tuesday. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace and found hell waiting for them. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of his heavy cruiser Soul's Fury and watched alien ships dying. The Althari vessels looked like floating crystals, beautiful and delicate. The Vex swarm ships looked like giant insects made of metal and flesh. "Dear God," whispered his communications officer, the Vex ships were eating the Althari fleet. Green acid sprayed from organic cannons, melting the crystal ships like ice in hot water. Hundreds of small Vex fighters swarmed around larger Althari vessels, tearing them apart piece by piece. "Admiral Tae-sung to all ships," came the voice over the radio. "You see the enemy. You see what they do to those who cannot fight back. Show them what Deathworlders do to bullies." An alien voice suddenly filled the communication channels. It was musical and afraid. "Unknown ships, this is Admiral Thelnara of the Althari Defense Fleet. Are you the peaceful explorers who answered our call?" Captain Hai-jin answered from the Indomitable. "We're the help you asked for. Stay back and let us work." "But you only have 50 ships," Thelnara said. "The swarm has thousands. You should run while you can." "We don't run," said Admiral Tae-sung. "Major Sujin, launch all fighters. Show these bugs how humans say hello." 200 human fighter ships shot out from the fleet like angry wasps. Major Sujin led them in her fighter Soul Thunder. She was a small woman with short hair and quick hands, but she flew like a demon. "All pilots, listen up," she said over the radio. "These things adapt to normal weapons. So we don't use normal weapons. We use ourselves." The first wave of human fighters hit the Vex swarm at full speed. Instead of shooting and running away like civilized pilots, they rammed straight into the enemy ships. Explosions lit up space as human fighters traded their lives for Vex kills. "Ramming speed," shouted pilot Do-hyun as he aimed his damaged fighter at a Vex bioship. "For Earth and humanity," His ship exploded against the alien vessel, tearing a hole in its living hull. Green blood sprayed into space. Admiral Thelnara watched in shock. What are they doing? Why are they destroying themselves? Because it works, Captain Heijin replied. The Vex swarm had evolved to fight civilized species. Civilized species valued their lives and fought carefully. They used tactics that made sense and weapons that were efficient. The Vex could adapt to that kind of fighting, but humans were not civilized. They were the children of a death world that had taught them terrible lessons. Sometimes the only way to win was to make sure your enemy lost, even if it killed you too. Dr. Jiwan worked in her laboratory while the battle raged outside. She had managed to capture some pieces of destroyed Vex ships. The alien tissue was still alive, trying to repair itself even after being blown apart. Fascinating, she said to her assistant. They're not really machines or really animals. They're something in between. Is that good news or bad news? Asked the assistant. Both, said Jiwan. They can adapt to any weapon we use repeatedly, but they need time to adapt. And they've never seen anything like human tactics before. Medical officer Insu was treating wounded human pilots in the ship's hospital. One young man had burns covering half his body, but he kept asking when he could go back to his fighter. I can still fly, Doc, the pilot said. My left hand works fine. You need medical treatment, Insu told him. The Althari need help more than I need treatment. Insu had seen this before. Humans would fight until they died rather than abandon those they were protecting. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Outside, the battle continued. Captain Minho ordered his ship forward into the middle of the Vex swarm. Weapons specialist Do Hyun armed the nuclear mines. Small bombs that could be dropped like seeds in space. Deploying mines in kamikaze formation, Do Hyun reported. Kamikaze formation? Asked Admiral Thelnara. What does that mean? It means we're going to fly through the enemy fleet and drop nuclear bombs as we go, explained Captain Heijin. Some of us might not make it out. That's insane. That's humanity. The human ships charged through the Vex formation, dropping nuclear mines as they went. The mines exploded in chain reactions, taking out dozens of bioships, but 3 human cruisers were destroyed in the attack. Admiral Taesung's voice came over all channels. Thelnara, I need you to understand something. Your people think we're peaceful explorers. We're not. We're killers from a death world, but we're your killers now. I don't understand. You will. All ships initiate Doctrine Omega. Target the big one. In the center of the Vex swarm was a massive bioship the size of a small moon. It was growing new fighters from pods on its surface. The Vex Queen ship was the source of the entire swarm. Sir, said Weapons Officer Bitna, our missiles won't penetrate that thing's armor. Then we'll deliver them by hand, said Taesung. Volunteers stepped forward from every ship in the fleet. They would fly small shuttles packed with nuclear bombs straight into the Queen ship. It was a suicide mission and everyone knew it. Young pilot Daeho was the first to volunteer. Admiral, request permission to deliver the first package. Granted. All ships cover those shuttles. Make sure they reach their target. The Althari watched as human pilots flew toward certain death, singing battle songs over the radio. They flew through walls of enemy fire, their small ships exploding one by one. But some got through. This is Daeho, came the last transmission. Package delivered. Tell my family I died doing something that mattered. The explosion lit up half the star system. The Vex Queen ship screamed as it died, a sound that traveled through subspace and reached every living thing within 100 light years. The remaining Vex ships suddenly stopped fighting. Without their queen, they had no purpose, no direction. They drifted in space like broken toys. Is it over? Asked Admiral Thelnara. This battle is over, said Admiral Taesung. But the war has just begun. There are more queen ships out there, and now they know we're coming. The Althari had called for peaceful explorers to save them. Instead, they got Deathworlders who would burn the galaxy down to protect innocent lives. And for the first time since the war began, the Althari had hope. The alarm rang through the bridge of the Earthship Indomitable. Captain Heijin ran his hand through his black hair and looked at the flashing red lights on his control panel. Something was wrong in the Kepler sector. What is it, Bo-Ra? He asked the woman sitting at the communication station. Bo-Ra's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard. Her face was serious as she listened to something through her headphones. Captain, I'm getting a signal. It's not from Earth, it's not from any human ship. Jin felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens was something every space captain dreamed about and feared at the same time. Put it on the main speaker. Strange sounds filled the bridge. The noise was like music mixed with crying. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. Bora worked hard to clean up the signal and translate it. It's a distress call, she said after several minutes. They're asking for help from peaceful explorers. They say their worlds are being destroyed by something they call the Vex Swarm. Admiral Tae-sung walked onto the bridge. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands from old battles. How far away are they? 3 days at maximum speed, answered Jin. Tae-sung looked at the star map on the big screen. Red dots showed where the alien signal was coming from. Tell me more about this message. Bora played the translated version. The alien voice sounded scared and desperate. We are the Althari people. Our colonies are dying. The Vex Swarm eats everything in its path. We need help from peaceful explorers who travel the stars. Please, if you receive this message, come to these coordinates. We will share our knowledge and resources with anyone who helps us. Peaceful explorers, Tae-sung said with a dark smile. They think we're like them. Jin knew what the Admiral meant. Humans were not peaceful explorers. They were survivors from Earth, a death world that had made them into fighters. Other aliens called them Deathworlders because they came from a planet that tried to kill everything on it. Should we respond? Asked Jin. Get me Commander Jin, Tae-sung ordered. A few minutes later, a tall woman with short black hair appeared on the communication screen. She was on a scout ship closer to the alien signal. Jin, what can you see from your position? Tae-sung asked. Admiral, it's bad. Really bad. I can see dead star systems. No light, no radio signals, nothing. Whatever this Vex Swarm is, it's eating entire worlds. Tae-sung called for a meeting in the war room. Soon all the important officers were sitting around a metal table. Engineer Woo Jin had brought his tablet with data about the alien signal. His young face looked worried as he shared what he had learned. The Vex Swarm uses biological ships, Woo Jin explained. They're not built like our metal ships. They're grown like plants or animals. The aliens say these ships can adapt to different weapons and become stronger. Adapt to different weapons? Asked Major Soo Jin. She was in charge of the fighter pilots. What does that mean? It means they learn from each battle, Woo Jin said. If you shoot them with lasers, they grow armor against lasers. If you use missiles, they find ways to stop missiles. Dr. Jiwon, the ship's scientist, leaned forward. But they've only fought against civilized species. Species that fight in predictable ways. And we're not civilized, said Tae-sung with another dark smile. Jin understood. Human fighting was different from other species. Humans had learned to fight on Earth where everything wanted to kill them. They learned to be unpredictable, to take crazy risks, to never give up even when losing. The Althari think we're peaceful explorers, Bora said. Should we tell them the truth? What's the truth? Asked Tae-sung. That we're the galaxy's most feared killers? That other species tell scary stories about Deathworlders to their children? We could just ignore the signal, suggested Woo Jin. It's not our problem. The room went quiet. Everyone knew that was not really an option. Humans might be dangerous, but they had rules. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves. How many ships do we have? Tae-sung asked. 50 combat ships plus support vessels, answered Jin. And how many aliens are asking for help? Bora checked her notes. The Althari have 12 worlds with about 2 billion people total. Tae-sung stood up. 2 billion innocent people are about to die, and they're asking for help from peaceful explorers. He looked around the table. We're not peaceful, but we are explorers, and when someone asks for help, we answer. Even if they're scared of us when they see us? Asked Soo-jin. Especially then, said Tae-sung. Fear can be a good thing. Fear keeps you alive. Orders went out to the entire fleet. 50 human warships began moving toward Althari space. They were painted in dark colors and covered with weapons. They looked exactly like what they were, ships of war from a death world. Bora sent a message back to the aliens. She kept it simple. Help is coming. Stay strong. She did not tell them that help was coming from the most dangerous species in the galaxy. She did not tell them that humans had fought and killed their way to the stars. She did not tell them that Deathworlders were coming to save them. In 3 days, the Althari would see human ships arrive in their system. They would see beings who looked like predators and fought like demons. They would learn that sometimes the monsters are on your side. But for now, the Althari sent back a message full of hope and gratitude. Thank you, peaceful explorers. We await your arrival. Admiral Taesung read the message and shook his head. Peaceful explorers, he said to himself. They have no idea what's coming. The human fleet moved through space toward their destination. In the ship's halls, soldiers checked their weapons and Marines practiced for battle. They were going to war against an enemy they had never seen, to save people they had never met. It was exactly what humans did best.